You know, sometimes we complain about our time. We say, man, we're living in the worst time. The Ummah is weak, the Ummah is defeated, the Ummah is disunited. I wish I was living in the time of the Sahaba, or I wish I was living in the time of the heroic Islamic eras. The Tabi'een said to one of the Sahaba, how did you treat Rasulullah ﷺ when he was among you? So the Sahabi talked about how we used to treat him, and then he said we would try to do our best. The Tabi'i responded by saying, if he lived in our time, we would have carried him on our shoulders. What the Tabi'i was trying to say is that you didn't treat him good enough. If he was living with us, we would have been better to him than you. The Sahabi responded by saying, and I don't remember the exact wording, but the meaning of it is that you never know what you would have done if you lived then. We were fighting our fathers and brothers. We were fighting our fathers and brothers. It wasn't an easy thing. Now your father is Muslim and your brother is Muslim and your whole entire family is Muslim, so you imagine that you're going to treat Rasulullah ﷺ in a certain way. When he came and gave da'wah to us, my father was kafir, I was mu'min. My brother was kafir, I was mu'min. So I had to fight my family. So it wasn't an easy thing. So do not wish, do not ask for something that Allah didn't destine for you. This is number one. Number two, when I'm talking about, we shouldn't complain about our time. Number two, we shouldn't be complaining about this time. We should be grateful to Allah Azza wa Jalla that we're living in these days. Why? If you look at the status of the Sahaba, it's the highest status among the Muslim Ummah. They are the highest, they are the best, they are the greatest. And then the Tabi'een, and then the ones who came after them. If we ask the question why, how come the Sahaba were the best? Some of the reasons. The Sahaba built Islam from scratch. The Sahaba came and there was nothing. So the Sahaba established the foundation. They established the foundation of the deen. While anybody who came after them came and the building was already there, they just added some pieces here and there. Something was broken, so they fixed it. You know, a bid'ah, so they fixed it. But the foundation was already laid by the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. And this makes them the best generation because their job was the most difficult job. And it's important for us to realize what is the demand of our time so that we fulfill it. Because the things that a Tabi'een emphasized on, for example, might be different than the things that the Tabi'een emphasized on. Let me give an example to make this point clear. If Al-Bukhari came 100 years later and did the same thing, he wouldn't have had the same status that he has among us now. If Imam Al-Shafi'i came 100 years later and did the same thing he did then, he wouldn't have had the same status that he has among us now. Why? Because the needs were different from time to time. You would notice that the four Imams of fiqh lived within the same century. And the 6 Imams of hadith also lived during the same century. So that tells you that the need in one time was fiqh and the need in the other time was hadith. I'm saying this because if we want to serve Islam the best now, we need to understand what is needed now. We find that some brothers would go and emphasize on da'wah, while some brothers would go and emphasize on ilm, while some brothers will emphasize on this. We need to emphasize on these areas, we need to emphasize on every area, but we also need to ask ourselves the question, what is the thing that is needed most in our time today? We would find that it's quite similar to the time of the Sahaba, because now we have reached to the lowest level we have reached in 14 centuries. So our time now, which we are complaining about, is the most similar time to the Sahaba. It's not exactly the same, but it's the most similar among all the generations of Muslims to the time of the Sahaba. Why? Because when the Sahaba came, there was no Islamic authority, and there's no Islamic authority today. And this wasn't the case for 1400 years. When the Sahaba came, they were fought by the entire surrounding. The two superpowers, the Persian Empire and the Roman Empire, and all of the Arabs around them were against them. And this is similar to our situation today. And this wasn't the case in our history before. In our history before, you would find an Islamic authority. In our history before, you would find people to assist you in al-haqq. There is a place to make hijrah to. Now you find that the entire globe is waging a war against you, and that is also similar to the time of the Sahaba. Which means, the consequence of this is that the ajr of the people today could be very great. We're not going to say equal to the ajr of the Sahaba, but it's going to be very great. And that's why Rasulullah ﷺ has mentioned in his hadith that even though the best generation is the Sahaba, and then the Tabi'een, and then the Tabi'een al-Tabi'een, but he said that there will be a generation of people in the end of time, the ajr of one of them will be equal to the ajr of 50. So the Sahaba said 50 of us or 50 of them. Rasulullah ﷺ says 50 of you. So the salah will be like the salah of 50 Sahaba. You fast one day, it will be like the fasting of 50 Sahaba. The ajr is multiplied by 50. Why? Because of the difficulty of that time. We notice that Rasulullah ﷺ said that towards the end of time, there will be people that will be among the greatest of this ummah. Rasulullah ﷺ says in the hadith, يخرج من عدن أبيان 12,000 ينصرون الله ورسولهم خير من بيني وبينهم. Out of Adan Abyan will come out 12,000. They will give victory to the religion of Allah, and they will be the best between me and them. They are the best between Rasulullah ﷺ and between that time. So you can wrap all of these centuries and they will be the best. They will be the best. Why? Because their time is similar to the time of the Sahaba. So why complain if you're living in the time of the new gold rush? And this is not a gold rush for gold, but it's a gold rush for hasanat. And there are some times, for example, there are some times when the economy is booming so fast that everybody becomes rich. And there are times when things are stagnating and slow. So people who live there and say, man, I wish I was living in the time of the boom, I would have been a millionaire. We are living in a time of a boom now. We just need to realize it and realize how much ajr is out there waiting for us if we just go and do something. The ajr is so great, it's just waiting for somebody to do something about it. Because when it come in a time when everything is easy, then the ajr is reduced. But when things are difficult, when it's a time of usr, difficulty, the ajr is increased. Al-ajr ala qadr al-mashaqqa. Ajr is in accordance to the difficulty. So why complain about a time when it's really the best time? If we are talking about the time when victory is around the corner, when Rasulullah ﷺ said they will be the ones who will give victory to Al-Mahdi and give victory to Isa ibn Maryam, if we are close to that time. Allahu Alam, this is ghaib, but if we're close to that time, then the ajr is astronomical. You can't even imagine how much ajr is out there to be handed out. But the thing is, we don't want to be waiting on the sidelines when all of this is happening. People are going and making millions and you're sitting at home doing nothing. So we shouldn't complain about our time. Rasulullah ﷺ says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ زَوَالِيَ الْأَرْضِ فَرَأَيْتُ أَنَّ مُلْكَ أُمَّتِي سَيَبْلُغُ مَا زُوِيَ لِي مِنْهَا. Allah Azza wa Jal has shown me the entire earth, and this hadith is Sahih Muslim. Allah has shown me the entire earth, and He told me that the kingdom of my nation will reach to all of it. So this religion will reach to every continent, to every country, to every city. The banner of La ilaha illallah will enter into every city. سَيَبْلُغُ هَذَا الدِّينِ مَا بَلَغَ اللَّيْلُ وَالنَّهَارِ. This religion will reach wherever night and day reaches. Is there a place on the planet where night and day doesn't reach? This religion will reach wherever night and day reaches. So you, the kafir, the munafiq, if you want to hide away from this religion, you need to go to Mars or the moon or somewhere else. There will be no place for you on dunya. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا.